What is up, my mates of YouTube? My name is Aussie Marcel and welcome back to the Capital Wasteland. Something rather serious in today's little video. I just wanted to talk about the broader implications of the implementation of digital ID here in Australia. Now, with all this talk about the federal government banning social media for those under the age of 16, how would they implement that? Well, they're going to implement that by employing a digital ID. That's according to the eSafety Commissioner, and that is very worrying for several reasons. The reason why they want to implement a digital ID in the first place, why the Australian government wants to implement a digital ID, and keep in mind this has bipartisan support. The banning of Facebook and other social media for those under the age of 16 has bipartisan support in Australian Parliament. Now, this is worrying because, like I said in the intro, of the broader implications. If they implement this and they require digital ID here in Australia in order to sign up for social media, that is another point of access that the government has into your life. Now, I was reading, and I'll link this down below in the description, it will require 100 points of identification. Why is this all bad though? Well, firstly, here in Australia, we have no constitutional rights for freedom of speech. We have no constitutional rights for freedom of press. We have no constitutional rights that protects us from tyranny, in other words. Our ability to speak our minds and convey ideas freely is, I believe, a fundamental human right that exists beyond the confines of government, whether it be federal or state. Australia is setting a dangerous precedent for the rest of the world and Canada as well if we implement digital ID in order to track movement, in order to protect the safety of children. And it is always under the guise of protecting our children online. They'll say, oh, but what about all the bots online? What about, don't you want to access Facebook and know who you're talking to? Well, look, I think it's a trade-off. It is an absolute trade-off here. I would much rather the government not have implemented digital ID and tracking everyone in the country at the expense of having to deal with a couple of spam accounts on Facebook. It is a very small trade-off. And like I said, it is a dangerous precedent to set when the government has complete and utter access to not only our identity, I mean, they can already do that through our driver's license, our passport, things of that nature, our bank cards even, really. But it sets a dangerous precedent when they can track your online movement. And I'm a firm believer in people having the freedom to make their own choices, the freedom of movement, the freedom to speak their mind, and the freedom of press. Okay, so I just needed to elaborate a little bit here. If you were in Victoria during the Victorian lockdowns between 2020 and 2022, the beginning of 2022, you would have known about the QR code implementation system. Now, when the Victorian government implemented the QR code system in Victoria, it was originally opt-in. You didn't have to do it, but eventually they made it law that if you didn't scan in with QR codes, for instance, if you were going to, the post office or something like that, they made it that if you did not scan in with the QR codes, you could face up to 2 years in prison. Now, in the 2 articles I've linked below in the description, and I implore each and every one of you, especially if you're Australian, to educate yourself, read these articles, and you will see that there's a link between the digital ID system and the QR code system. At first, the digital ID system will be opt-in. Eventually, they will make that mandatory. And if you don't use it, you will face prosecution and punishment. So the chief takeaway of all of this is obviously going to be, if you are worried about the future of Australia, if you care about Australia, educate yourself a little bit about the digital ID and how they implement it in Canada to see how they may implement it here. It's very worrying. And if you care about the future of your kids, if you care about Australia, educate yourself about these digital IDs. It is not a good thing, guys. Now, the reason why I'm so passionate about all of this is because I know a lot of you here love Australia. I love Australia. You know, when I was a lot younger, I didn't really care that I was Australian. I didn't really care about a lot of things because when you're younger, you don't appreciate what you have. That's just a fact of being younger, you know? And I love Australia so much. I love being Australian. And I want, when I have my own children, I want them to inherit the Australia that I grew up inheriting. But the odds of that happening nowadays, it's not looking good. It's not looking good for them. And I worry about the kids of Australia, not because of them not being able to sign up for a Facebook account until they're 16 or anything like that. It's because we have a federal government that is overbearing and does not care one iota about you or your freedoms. And that's universal. That is just a fact of life, that our government stopped caring. Maybe they never cared about us. Maybe they never cared about us at all. So with that all being said, I think we should engage in this discussion. We should get out there and make ourselves heard. We should make a point to the government on a wide enough level that we're heard, saying that we don't want these digital IDs implemented and that we see right through their veil of trying to protect the children on social media from being bullied or harassed. It's got nothing to do with that at all. It's much deeper than that. And their attempts at obfuscating the truth and trying to hide in plain sight are laughable. Anyways, this is something I'm super passionate about, and I really want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. This is a huge issue, and we should be standing up against it. So I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's have a beautiful, meaningful discussion. And I know there's going to be some like-minded folks out there. So let me know your thoughts. So until the next video, my name is Aussie Marcel, and I'll catch you guys around.